DJ Scream, heavy in the streets.
We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood. We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood.
Hood rich.
Get it out the mud.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And this evening we have some appetizers on the show here. We have appetizers, the results, the post-game results of the UFC 296. That's Edwards versus Covington for the welterweight championship, and this was held December 16th, 2023 at T-Mobile Arena, Paradise, Nevada, United States. The attendance was 19,039 people with 9.3 million at the gate. So it was pretty just my first thoughts on the event, and I really only followed like the pay-per-view, the top 5 fights. I really only followed like real close to that. And originally when first like going over this card and picking who I think is going to win, I was pretty excited with this card because I mean it had a lot of big name fighters, big name, whether they're up and coming or washed, but I mean, you had big names like Josh Emmett, Bryce Young, Tony Ferguson, Patty Pimblin, Stephen Thompson, Savkat Ramanov, even Alex Pantoja, Leon Edwards, Colby Covington. Like every one of those guys is like a star, except maybe Brandon Rollball. That was about it out of 9 out of 10 fighters is definitely a name brand, top ranked fighter. But I feel that it kind of came up short a little bit, I think Patty Pimblin, he was kind of looking for his for a finish, after his disappointing last fight or two that's gone to decision. Both the championship bout, flyweight championship bout, and the welterweight bout, those were just kind of like they were dominant performance by one of the fighters, but really after that it was no real threat of them actually being finished, but they were definitely controlled throughout the whole unanimous decision. So it seems like every time when I think, oh well, this is a good card and it has a lot of people's names on it, a lot of name brand fighters on it, and then it ends up being kind of underwhelming. So I would say this is kind of like on the brink of being underwhelmed because I didn't think any of those fights were really that great. Trying to see, only one player or one fighter on like the bonuses, $50,000. Only one fighter made that list off the main event, the pay-per-view, and that was Josh Emmett. But anyways, let's start breaking down these 5 fights from the UFC 296 Edwards versus Covington fight. So anyways, can I get a menu? And so the first bout here is a featherweight bout between Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. And originally I picked Bryce Mitchell to win this. I thought both these fighters are pretty tough and durable. But leading into this match, he had 17 fights, 16 wins, and 1 loss where he had been submitted. Back against Elliot Tapora. Supposedly he was sick and injured. It's a good excuse after you lose, but Elliot Tapora beat him with a submission arm triangle choke. But he's never really been in any fear or trouble with getting knocked out. But that's exactly what happened in this fight against Josh Emmett. Bryce Mitchell got just completely slept. And I picked this fight for Bryce Mitchell to win by unanimous decision because both these guys, at least leading into this fight, seem like very durable fighters. Josh Emmett, even though he's like 40 years old, and had 23 fights. Only two of them have ever come by knockout. Only one come by knockout and one by submission. So I thought it was going to be very, very durable. Just both fighters are very durable. So I thought it was going to go to a decision, but it ended up being a knockout. Like I'm talking KO, not TKO punch, like stone cold knocked out at 157 of the first round. And there wasn't a whole lot of action like leading up to the very last punch because it was a punch knockout, like not kicks and punches or punches. Like it was a um, straight knockout, and it was weird because Bryce Young, he's known more for his grappling and submission attempts, and he didn't even really try all that much to take Josh Emmett down. But minute and 50 seconds in, he just didn't have good defense, hands defense, and man, it's like he walked right into an overhand right by Josh Emmett that just completely slumped Bryce Mitchell to the point where he started having a seizure and everything else. So that was kind of scary, you know. I'd assume I kind of know a little bit about this. I assume that wouldn't have counted as like an epileptic seizure because they know exactly why he was having it. A lot of times with epileptic seizures, people don't know like the direct cause of the seizure, but that seizure here, we know the direct cause of it. It's because he had some brain damage, or you know that got hit so hard in the face and in the brain that it concaved his face and caused him to have a seizure right there on site. So I don't think that has anything to do with epilepsy, but just literally brain damage because it was such a hard punch. He was out for so long. He was shivering and shaking, twisted on the pavement. But yeah, I was coming into this fight and picking Bryce Mitchell. I was just kind of saying, uh, this is kind of Josh Emmett's swan song, or he's a stepping stone, or a measuring stick kind of fighter for Josh Mitchell. No, I can't. At least for his power, that's a lot of times the last thing that goes with older fighters and quarterbacks that have a big arm. That's usually the last thing that goes. And even though he's pushing on 40, he has not lost any of his power to completely sleep someone like Bryce Mitchell. So started off 0-1, not great on my picks, but anyways, let's go on to the second fight of this card, and it's a lightweight bout between Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson. And then this fight went unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. That was all in third and in the third round. It was a 3-round fight. And yeah, I mean, I picked Paddy Pimblett to win this, you know, but I thought he was going to win. So I didn't pick the right way that I expected him to win it with. I expected him to get like a submission or at least a finish. I definitely thought it was going to be by submission. And early on, like the and a half, first quarter and a half or so, Paddy Pimblett was dominating Tony Ferguson, standing up with a lot more power and better with taking him down. Got his back a couple times. I thought he was going to end up getting a submission, a rear naked choke or something on him, but never did. And then like after that round and a half or so, he was just like Paddy Pimblett was just like exhausted. You know, basically he was just like leaning on Tony Ferguson, and it was just kind of boring. And the sad thing with Tony Ferguson, and this is what I've noticed over his how many fights are there? Like 8 fights in a row or something. Yeah, 7 fights in a row. The thing that I've noticed is he doesn't seem like when he's throwing punches or going for submissions or anything. Definitely when he throws punches, and throughout those 7 games, like when he throws punches or lands punches or anything like that, it just doesn't seem like it has anything on him anymore. It doesn't seem like he never really was like a knockout artist, but just like I'm talking about Josh Emmett losing his power and knockout ability, not losing it. We got Tony Ferguson over here that just through those 7 games, I don't know if I wouldn't say that he hit or rocked anyone in that game. It's just like kind of pitter patter, uh, not very dangerous strikes when it comes to the power. So, of course, he lost, but I wouldn't say this was a dominant performance by Paddy Pimblett. Yeah, he won unanimous decision, but he lost it to a 40-year-old fighter that's on that was at the time a 6-game losing streak, and all you can do is kind of dominate them in the first round, close to getting them in a rear naked check, and then next rear naked choke, and next thing you know, and they're just kind of holding them down, not really even throwing punches, they're just doing enough to not be set back up. But Tony Ferguson, even if they would have gotten stood up several more times or broken it up when he was in half guard, places where you usually don't see the refs stand people up. I mean, Tony Ferguson wasn't going to knock him down or kick or get a submission. Paddy Pimblett actually looked quite a bit bigger than Tony Ferguson, anyways. So that got one win there, not the outcome, but like I said, this fight was a little underwhelming because you just didn't didn't get a finish like you would hope to settle some issues between Terry Ferguson not playing in a while and then Paddy Pimblett being young still and not having a great performance in a while. But I would say the most exciting part of this card, especially the pay-per-view, is definitely just the like devastating, scary, out of nowhere knockout by Josh Emmett. But anyways, let's move on to the third bout of this card of UFC 296, and we have Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Thompson, and I picked Shavkat Rakhmonov, and this is like one of the few ones that I got here. I picked um, I picked Shavkat Rakhmonov to get the submission on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and be the first person to ever submit Stephen Thompson. So maybe that way makes up for all my previous picks that I was able to predict and know that Shavkat Rakhmonov is such a great wrestler, the Sambo, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's just on another level compared to literally a 40-year-old Stephen Thompson. But I respect this loss really by Stephen Thompson because hell, he was able to hold out like the first round, and Shavkat Rakhmonov just closed the distance and was just leaning on him the entire first round, and then there was a lot more of that in the second round to where he finally wore Stephen Thompson down and got his back and got him flattened out and got him in that rear naked choke. So that's one of the few fights here. I got two in a row, but this is one of the few ones where I actually got the win, the pick, the win, and the outcome submission by Shavkat Rakhmonov. All right. So, but definitely an impressive fight, lasting almost 2 rounds with someone just completely more dominant than Shavkat Rakhmonov. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I mean, he's karate. He's never been skilled or varied in ground game. All right, and now on to the co-main event. It's a featherweight championship bout between Alexander Pantoja, the champion at the time, versus Brandon Royval. And this was probably the worst fight on the card between Alexander Pantoja, the championship, and Brandon Royval. This fight went to unanimous decision, so it was 50, 45, 50, 45, and 49, 46. And so that was a 5-round championship bout. And man, it was just basically not nonstop. Alexander Pantoja just pretty much taking Brandon Royval down and then just kind of holding there, not even really doing any ground and pound, just doing just enough to just enough to not get stood up by the judge, the ref, and then it was pretty much all that the entire fight. And then there was, I'm trying to remember if it was the 4th or the 5th round Brandon Roybal got a little bit of a series in the fight where he had a couple nice combinations standing up before you get taken down again. So I can see why maybe one judge gave it 49-46, but the other one just all gave it to Alexander Pantoja, just taking Brandon Roybal down on the ground and not letting him do anything really. So that was just not the most exciting, kind of a boring. So this is where it kind of gets like boring, you know. Not just now, but obviously it started with the Paddy Pimblett, Tony Ferguson fight, so it's kind of a disappointment performance by Paddy Pimblett, and then you know this is kind of a poor performance or boring performance for Alex Pantoja, you know, the championship, just the way that he beat Brandon Roybal, just taking him down, holding him down. It seems like a kind of a safe way to retain your title. All right, and then so on to the main event. It's a welterweight championship bout between Leon Edwards, champion at the time, defeats Colby Covington, or yeah, so versus Colby Covington, and it was a unanimous decision fight, 49-46, 49-46. So they each, let's see, yeah, so it had him win at least one round, and that was a 5 round, 5 minutes. And so Leon Edwards, the champion, defeated Colby Covington, and this was a weird fight. How it went, you know, not what I was expecting from Colby Covington at all. You know, I had picked Leon Edwards to win this, and this is another one where I did pick the outcome right. I picked Leon Edwards to win this by decision, but I didn't think that it was going to go the way that it did, and I guess I was unaware. I guess I missed this somewhere where where Colby Covington, like I watched like every pay-per-view, and I've seen since Colby Covington's been worth anything. I've seen all of his fights, but I did not realize that he hadn't fought uh, since March 22nd. So that's what, like a year and a half or so. He fought Jorge Masvidal and at UFC 227 at March 5th, 2020. He won that fight. I guess he would have been 33 or 34. Yeah, he would have been just turned 34, I think. So he had just turned 34, but now he's back, and the way he looked in this fight against Leon Edwards, I mean, he looked washed almost. Like both of them totaled 18 points or 18 punches were thrown in the first two quarters or first two rounds, and then towards the end of the third round, Colby Covington finally starts like trying to get takedowns and see if he can get a takedown and work any of his wrestling that he's so great at. And the crazy thing that ends up happening is Leon Edwards, you know, he was just trying to point strike and keep the distance and be a kickboxer, which is what he's probably best at. But then after a couple of attempts by Colby Covington and not great attempts, some attempts where you say he maybe got the takedown, you know, but he wasn't able to hold him there. And that's what Leon Edwards did. He ended up like turning the tables on Colby Covington and ended up taking him down, which no one would have ever thought. And after the fight, Leon Edwards said he just wanted to prove a point that he can beat him on the ground and beat him at his own game, you know. So that was wild, and not a game that not a fight that was impressive. Not really an impressive win. I guess it is an impressive win because of who he fought and how dominant they've been in the past. But honestly, Colby Covington looked kind of washed. You know, he's 35, and what 2-3 months he'll be 36 years old, and he's coming off of an injury. I mean, he could definitely just be washed now. But that's definitely how it looked like, because that's definitely how it looked and it felt with Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. It may just be because he's such a better fighter, and obviously he is younger, but Leon Edwards beat him at his own game and beat him with his game, you know. So anyway, so that's the card, you know. It's just mainly I guess it's the three fights that went to decision are the ones that were kind of boring. You know, the first of the Paddy Pimblett fight was good. You know, I thought Paddy Pimblett was going to getting rear naked choke and finish that, but Pantoja and Rollball, I didn't really expect that to go to submission, and Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. That's the one I did predict Leon Edwards to win that by decision. But let's go through these one more time and give who I predicted and what actually happened. So this is the one I was not close at all, probably the farthest off from picking. All the other fights I did pick correctly, just not necessarily the method for all of them. But yeah, I was way off on featherweight Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell got sent to the shadow realm and a different universe with the KO punch and the kind of scary seizure issue he had. But I picked Bryce Mitchell to win by decision because I thought both Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell are very durable. But we'll have to see. Have to see how durable Bryce Mitchell is after that, or if he even continues to fight. All right, on to a lightweight bout between Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson, and it ended up in decision, 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. That was 3 rounds, 5 minutes, and Paddy Pimblett pretty much controlled the whole fight. You know, looked really strong in the first round. You know, it looked like he was going to get the finish. Looked like he was going to flatten Tony Ferguson out and get the rear naked choke, but then he just kind of ran out of gas and just held him down the rest of the fight. But I'd pick Paddy Pimblett to win this, and I thought he'd probably win and by submission in the third, the third or the fourth. I guess the third round is when I was thinking he was going to do it. But I mean, he ran out of gas to submit anyone by the time the third round rolled around. And then third on this is the Savkat Rachmanov versus Stephen Thompson. And this is really the only one I would say I got 100% right. I did predict Rachmanov to get a submission in this, and that was one of the few fights that wasn't disappointing. It was exciting, but it was a different fight as well because there wasn't a lot of like striking, and Stephen Wonder Boy Thompson wasn't really able to do anything that he wanted to do in regards to his karate style because Savkat Rachmanov basically stayed super glued to him until he finally was able to flatten him out and rear naked choke him. So we got that one. We got all the picks right after the Josh and Bryce Young one. It's not necessarily a method. And then flyweight championship between Alexander Pantoja champion versus Brandon Roybal. I picked that to be a submission victory for Alexander Pantoja as well. I thought he was going to win. I thought he was going to win by submission, but it ended up being just kind of a grinded out win, a unanimous decision win by Pantoja, and he just kind of showed that he can take Brandon Roybal down and hold him there. That's pretty much the perfect example of that. He just isn't on the same level as Alexander Pantoja. And then the main event, the welterweight championship bout between Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington, and this was the fight that I thought was going to be decision. I thought it was maybe going to be more exciting of a fight. It went all 5 rounds, and both champions retained their belt, and Leon Edwards and Pantoja. But you know, Leon Edwards, he pretty much dominated and controlled every scenario in this fight. He just didn't get the finish. You know, he just had something to prove. You know, that better kickboxer, and hey, Colby Covington's like an Olympic style wrestler. Like that's pretty much the base of his game. And Leon Edwards took him down a couple times and held him down for a little bit. So that alone was impressive for Leon Edwards. But the card, just with the amount of names on it, I thought it would have been 1 or 2 of those fights that went to decision. I would have thought would have went a little bit better, but still exciting, and it was an all right way to end the year, the finale of the year. So next card won't be until July 13th, 2024. The UFC Apex Enterprise Nevada, and that's a UFC fight night. Ankalaev versus Walker too, which that fight got ended due to what was that? And he was either kicked or kneed in the head while he was down. Uh, Johnny Walker was. So that's a big matchup between those two. But anyways, I think that's all I have for you about UFC 296 Edwards versus Covington. So with that, can I get a check, please?